Alright, in this video we're going to be talking about multiplication of fractions. So let's get an idea what that means. So let's look at some easy-ish examples first. So the first one is, what would be 1/2 times 3? What would be half of 3? Well, I could take 3 units, here are my 3 units, and I could take half of them. So I could split the whole thing in half and only take one of those halves. So that would be, I want to use the color in thing, this bit here. And of course, how much do I have if I take half of 3, or 1/2 times 3? I have 3 halves. Using that same logic, what if I started with 2/3 rather than 3? If I want to take half of 2/3, I could do the same thing. Here are the 2/3 that I start with, and I want to take half of them. So I'm going to color in with a different color, maybe green. I want half of that. So there we are, there. So that is half of 2/3. Well, what is that now? Well, we took our thirds and we divided them in half. So the thirds we divided into sixths. So you can see a unit is made up of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sixths, and we have 2 of them. Okay. And finally, well, what if we make it a little bit more challenging? What if we have 2/5 times 2/3? 2/5 of 2/3. Well, here's 2/3. Let's divide those 2/3 into fifths and take 2 of them. So here's my 2/3. I'm going to divide them into 5 equal, or what I mean to be equal, parts. So pretend that they're all the same. And I want to take, and I'm just going to continue this over. I might as well split up the one we don't have as well. And I'm going to take 2 of those. So here's 1/5, 2/5, 3/5, 4/5, 5/5. I'm going to take 2 of those. So here are the 2/5 of the 2/3 that I'm taking. Well, how many equal pieces do we break up our unit into now? Well, we broke it up into 3 pieces vertically and 5 pieces horizontally. So the unit is broken up into 5 times 3, which is 15 equal pieces. You can see this is 3 pieces vertically, 5 pieces horizontally, so that's where that 5 times 3 comes in. And how many pieces do we have? Well, we have 4. But where did the 4 come from? Well, we had, in some sense, 2 pieces vertically, or vertically, and 2 pieces horizontally. So we have 2 times 2, which is 4. So 2/5 times 2/3 is 4/15. And that's the whole idea here. Kind of this bottom multiplication, well, that gives us, of course, how many pieces we broke the unit up into. It was 3 vertically, and in this case 5 horizontally. So that's the whole unit. But the amount that we have this other rectangle. In this case it's 2 vertically and 2 horizontally. So that gives us how many of the pieces that we actually have. So, there's nothing kind of special about any of these numbers, 2, 5, 2, or 3. So in general, using the same idea, if we have a over b times c over d, well, this means that we're breaking up our unit into d equal pieces, say, vertically, and this is b pieces horizontally, so we have b times d pieces overall that make up one unit. But how many pieces do we actually have? Well, our numerator says we have c pieces vertically, a pieces horizontally, so in total we have a times c pieces. And that's how multiplication works. You basically multiply your numerators. That gives you how many of these equal pieces you have. It's this little rectangle here. And multiplying your denominators gives you how many pieces make up one unit. So you multiply your numerators, multiply your denominators. And just a quick note here. I do want to talk about what a reciprocal is. So, if a over b is some rational number, then its reciprocal is b over a. Just flip the numerator and flip the denominator. Just flip where they are. So, quick example, just to make sure we understand this. The reciprocal of 4/5 is 5 over 4. So you just flip the numerator, flip the denominator. And I want to make a quick note here because it's kind of easy to see. But if a isn't 0, then a fraction times its reciprocal is 1. And notice I didn't say that b wasn't 0. That's kind of implied because a over b is a fraction. So if b was 0, this expression wouldn't even make sense. So if a isn't 0, then a fraction times its reciprocal equals 1. And let me kind of show you why. So a over b times b over a. Well, we know how to multiply this. Multiply your numerators, multiply your denominators. A times b is a times b. B times a is b times a, but I'm going to write it as a times b just to have it in some nice order. I'm going to divide top and bottom by a times b to get an equivalent fraction. A times b divided by itself is, of course, 1. And a times b divided by itself is, of course, 1 as well. And anything over 1 is just that anything. So 1 over 1 is itself.